right. Welcome to this week's episode of Talkin Folk. This is Nick. I'm here with Jimmy. What's going on, Jim? How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing swell. It's hot in New York City, and I'm pretty sweaty. That's the state of things.
Same thing here. We're going to have, some highs and some lows today. We're going to talk Christian Lee Hutson. So some sad, some silly. That's what this show's all about, kind of.
I bet a lot of people haven't heard of him, and his story's weird and kind of, I was going to say mysterious, but just unknown is the better word.
Yeah.
And his album's so good, and his music is so good, and his writing is so good, and it's weird.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I started doing research about him, and there's not a lot to research. It's like he just popped up and then became friends with. We'll get into it. So, yeah. became friends with Phoebe Bridgers a couple years ago, and he had some releases before that, but now he's like part of the Conor Oberst, Phoebe Bridgers crew.
He's in the gang.
So he's creating with them and been part of Better Oblivion Community Center as well, which was their, album or little supergroup that came out a couple years ago. But then he's got this.
Dude, he's in the Tiny Desk.
Yeah, he just became part of them. I think he plays bass with them in that group.
I've seen the Tiny Desk with Better Oblivion Community Center. And I always noticed him, but then I'd never put it together that that's him until right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so he just became part of that group. And I think, we did that episode on Phoebe Bridgers a little while ago where we talked about Kyoto. I'm assuming he was there with them. Because that was the Conor Oberst, Phoebe Bridgers, Better Oblivion Community Center tour. That's pretty cool. I don't know.
Yeah, that is cool.
So
he's got a very slow sound. It sounds like Bright Eyes. There's one early November album that was really slow that I was kind of sounds like that. Definitely Elliott Smith, which is huge Phoebe Bridgers inspiration as well. Very slow. So if you're tuning in, we like slow music. This is super slow.
Yeah, and we'll mix it up. We do have the middle song that we'll go through. We're gonna go through 3 songs today. First being Northsiders. So his album that just came out is called Beginners, and Phoebe Bridgers actually produced it and helped him finish writing it, compose it, whatever. And this was the first single that came out. I think she really helped him get his sound from. He basically came into the studio and he had audio voice memos and stuff that he showed up with, and they didn't want to stray really far away from that and do a Bright Eyes big horn section sounding thing or whatever, but helped him get that sound onto an actual album. So Northsiders was the first one that came out. I think that came out last year at some point, the fall of last year. It came out a while ago.
Yeah, it was out for a long time. I found him. I texted you because I was watching a Phoebe Bridgers interview. And I asked her favorite musicians, and she said, Christian Lee Hutson, but none of his stuff is anywhere, only YouTube. I was like, oh, who the hell's that? So I went and found him, and Northsiders was really the only song out, and it's so good.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about Get the Old Band Back Together, which will be our little pick-me-up in the middle of the show. And then we'll go to Keep You Down, which, by the way, that's... If you search Keep You Down, Christian Lee Hutson, I think he changed the name a while ago because there's some older recordings of him playing it as I Can't Keep You Down, I think is what he actually says in the song. Or I Have to Keep You Down. Oh, I Have to Keep You Down. And, he shortened it to Keep You Down. So we'll go through those. Before we do anything else that you want to talk about with him or Phoebe or anybody else, I know you've been listening to this album on repeat for the past month since it came out.
I like this album because it's the music I like where it's mostly just his voice. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you said, there's not a lot of instruments and there's not a lot of sound behind him because his voice and then the song, the stories of the characters and kind of emotions that he's sharing are the
Right.
driving home point. Like that's the music I like. I like the human story stuff. So
Yeah,
it's awesome.
he really. I think the comparison that a lot of people are putting him against, like you said, is Elliott Smith. There's a little bit of Paul Simon like vibe to him, where he tries to be delicate around these things that he talks about, which are as you should listen to the whole album. Like some of them are pretty either dark things that people go through or struggles that everybody has in their life. So let's kick off Northsiders. How do you want to do this, Jim? Do you want to let's play a little bit, we'll stop, we'll do it.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a really good reflection on youth song. Instead of like in the moment youth, like brand new, like we're gonna stay 18 forever and we'll never miss a part. It's like kind of like in the moment how you think. This is a really good reflection on like, look how young we were.
Right. And that, I don't think that's something that really comes, artists don't come back to that very often.
No, it's really cool though. Yeah.
All right, so here's Northsiders.
I was new in town, kinda goth. I met you in the science quad. You asked if I had any pot. We're going up to Mikey's spot, covering important ground. I tried cocaine at my cousin's house. Yeah, I'm probably addicted now. The things that children lie about.
I gotta pause it there because that's the first time I heard that song. I was like, okay, now I get what this song is about just from that first verse. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that. I tried cocaine in my cousin's house, and it's pretty funny, actually.
It's like, dude, he raps a lot of humor into these songs that I think if you were just to gauge on tone, you wouldn't understand, like, oh, that's funny. But I tried cocaine at my cousin's house. I'm probably addicted now.
Yeah.
It's like classic, 16, 17-year-old kid, high school kid, like thinking they're hard or thinking they're in deep when really they're like scratching the surface of something new and scary. And just like, or trying to like establish that they're like a badass now. So it's funny that he says, I'm probably addicted now. And then right away he says the things that children lie about, which is what I was saying, how he's reflecting on this time of life, not offering it to us in the moment.
Right. And you're right. And one of the things that I really like about him and other artists, I talk about this frequently on this show or any of the Talkin Folk shows, is like, I love when things sound like they don't really appear at first, unless you like really tune in and listen to the lyrics. His cadence and timbre, I think was probably the word that you would say, like is not, doesn't align to the humor of what this song is really saying. So we'll keep going.
I didn't notice it was getting late. You offered me a place to stay. We live up in the Palisades. Tell your folks you ran away. Besides, you're a Northsider now. Nothing's going to change it, pal.
So do you know what the word or the phrase Northsider comes from? Is he an LA guy? Do we know?
Well, I'm guessing so because Phoebe Bridgers in LA, but he has some other songs on here where he talks about going back to Chicago and stuff like that. But isn't Phoebe from like the Palisades north side of LA, I guess?
I think so. Yeah, and actually I've just pulled up his wiki. He is from Los Angeles, so could be either of them.
Maybe he has like relatives that he goes and visits to, talks about Chicago, or they're not about him. That could always be the thing. But yeah, I don't know like the geography of like, what the North Side and the Palisades represent, like the Santa Monica and the Beverly Hills. You know what I mean? Like I just don't know what he means by that. You're a
Right.
North Sider now. But it's definitely a girl that he met going up there and like living a lot, or maybe like visiting a friend and telling her parents she's running away from home, and it just captures that like feeling when you're like, I'm an adult now, mom, and I do drugs now, mom, and and like you just thinking you've reached this point in life where you are in control and you have things figured out and no one's going to tell you what to do. Right. Kind of mocking that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Huh. All right, let's keep going. What's funny is I didn't really think about it that way, that it was about, I just paused it again, but I didn't really think about it that way, about like this is a girl that potentially is with him, or this character if it's not actually him. But that kind of, I could see that view, how he's putting that spin on it.
Well, he says like, he met this girl. I was new in town, kind of goth. I met you in the science quad. I asked if you had any pot, and they were hanging out. And then he says, you offered me a place to stay. We live up in the Palisades. Tell your folks you ran away because you're a Northsider now. So like, I think like they're like, young and on the run in their minds.
Right. Yeah, it's cool.
We were so pretentious then, didn't trust the government. Said that we were communists and thought that we...
Can you pause it? I know we just paused. That's the best part of the song. Like those 4 lines encapsulate so many young people's lives that they don't understand. Like it sucks for anyone living in the moment, that there's got to be like some 15, 16-year-olds living in the moment that describes them.
Right.
They don't understand that it's kind of mocking. Like we were so pretentious then, didn't trust the government, said that we were communists, and thought that we invented it. Like when you find out about like revolutionary thought processes and you're like, oh, I'm that now. I think those 4 lines are really, really well done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, have you ever gotten into an argument with a family member, parent, older sibling or whatever, where it's like, you just learned that thing in school and now it's like, because the teacher said it was really, what?
Actually, mom,
Yeah. Have you ever had that line? My
teacher said, that's like that's what he's describing the rest of this verse, like experts on everything. That's what he's about to do with the next couple sentences.
Yeah, including his reference to Morrissey right here.
Yeah.
Morrissey apologists, amateur psychologists, serial monogamists. We went to different colleges. But you said that we would always be branches on the same old tree, reaching away from each other for eternity. And I can't argue with that. Nothing's going to change it now.
How cool is that way to say we're growing apart?
Yeah, on the branches on the same old tree, growing in different ways, or whatever it is he actually says there.
Reaching away from each other for eternity, like never gonna come back. We're just like, we may have started from the same root and the same youth and all that, but we went to college and now we are just growing apart.
Right. Yeah, we'll always be from the same place. I mean, how many friends do you have that you grew away from? So I like the list that he does, right? So Morrissey apologists. So Morrissey, I mean, he's like a cult artist that people love, but it's almost like to the point where it's like cool to really love him more so than I think if people go back and look, like it's more so cool to love him than his actual work. Amateur psychologist, that's pretty self-explanatory. Serial monogamous, we went to different colleges. Like the way that he weaved all that together is basically like transitioning from high school to college is kind of just describing your senior year is pretty awesome. He's going to go through one here which kind of changes the tone and I think
he kills the vibe pretty good here.
Yeah, and I think maybe listen to it in the way of, is this when he starts to look back in the song as the character, right? Like in terms of back in his life or what he's learned, or is this like the wake up call that every kid gets? So we'll let it go.
was working in the smoothie shop, but I couldn't get the weekend off. She told me I was getting soft. I read an article about the accident, probably reaching for cigarettes, and missed the brake lights up ahead. I hope it was an instant death.
So I'll pause it there because a lot just happened. You and I both knew that was coming, but if you're listening for the first time, basically there was probably a summer break is what he's trying to say, like working in some place back in the old town that they grew up in, or the area that they grew up in, and he couldn't get together with her.
Yeah, basically like one last hurrah. She reached out one more time, but he was working at a smoothie shop, which I may just be putting my own bias on here. But Jamba Juice is he's a little younger than us, but the aughts, I just think of Jamba Juice and those smoothie shops really popping up like crazy. And I had friends that worked at Jamba Juice in high school. So it also is just stamps it as young
right.
for me. And it's funny that he says, I couldn't get the weekend off. She told me I was getting soft because, he's conforming to the man now, and they were big communists and fuck the man vibes.
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So, and then he hits us with, she died in an accident. And the line where he just says, I hope it was an instant death is so jarring because you're like, oh, that's sweet, but not. I don't even know. It hits you with 5 different emotions at once. You're like, oh, fuck. Oh, I guess I get what you're saying, dude, but that is jarring to hear you just say it like that.
Yeah. He's also, the tone that he says that right there is kind of everyone after they either come out of high school or maybe, unfortunately, sometimes when people are in high school, they have that first moment where somebody passes away, there's an accident or whatever. And that's jarring.
In my brain, this girl who dies in this song is the same girl that died in Phoebe Bridgers' song Funeral, where she talks all about having the first person your age die. Probably not the same person, but it's very the same sentiment. He's coming from a more personal spot, but maybe they're in the same friend circles and they're talking about the same girl. That's wild to me.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, we'll let him finish it out here.
Sometimes I imagine us way down the line, getting fat somewhere in the countryside. It's crazy how things shake out sometimes. But maybe that's enough magic for me. Nothing's going to change it now.
So, song's gonna fade out there. What do you think he means by, but maybe that's enough magic for me?
Well, I think he's giving himself like he was giving it a magical ending, in his brain. Sometimes I think what if we got fat in the countryside and you didn't die and we never grew apart and we lived happily ever after. And he's like, that's enough magic for me. I can't let myself stay in that thought process.
Oh yeah,
that's how I imagine it, or that's how I
interpret it. Yeah, I didn't really have anything for that, but yeah. So he's imagining all these things, and then it becomes probably depressing because that's not the actual reality, more so than anything else. All right, so how about we pick it up a little bit in terms of something a little bit more? I don't know. It's kind of still rooted in reminiscing and nostalgia, which to me sometimes leads to sadness, but this isn't therapy session for me. But we're gonna talk about Get the Old Band Back Together. So this apparently roots from a true story that he ran into somebody, I don't know, from an old band that he was in high school or whatever time period.
No, do you know the true story? It's really funny.
Go ahead if you know who it is and all that.
I don't know who it is because they're not a real band. So he said he met this guy who was in a band and the band kicked him out. Okay, so the guy in the band said he had been kicked out of his band because he told the singer that he was becoming a building inspector and getting a job to pay money.
Right.
So the singer said, you can either be in this band or you can inspect buildings. And the drummer chose to inspect buildings because the band had never recorded a track or played a live show ever. So he heard that story and got the idea for this song where like it's this dude being a building instructor, right? And just finally being like, fuck it. I need to get back in the band, even though they don't do anything.
I thought that was his band when I read that story, and I thought that came off to me like it was his. But I got you. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. No.
That's
Someone
really funny.
told Christian Lee Hutson that story about this drummer
Gotcha.
who got the ultimatum when the band wasn't doing anything, and he just thought it was so funny that he was like he pictured the guy like leaving his building instructor job, being like, fuck it, dude, I'm back in. Let's get the band back together again, even though they never recorded anything.
That's great. That's really funny.
It's funny.
All right, so the other thing is if you haven't seen it, I don't know if you've seen it, you should watch the video for this song. It's really funny. And it's clips of Christian Lee Hutson and
Phoebe Bridgers and
Connor Oberst, but I can't remember if it's all of their youth talent shows kind of combined into one, or if it's
they
just
did it
the
on
Christian Lee
they did it with
Hutson one.
quarantine.
Yeah, they did it over quarantine, but the background video that plays is actual footage from, I believe it's Christian Lee Hutson's talent show when he was in high school or middle school or whatever. So it's pretty funny. Anyway, here it is. Get the old band back together.
You idiots in your leather jackets and glasses, you know I can still kick all your asses. Harry, I had a thought, if I dust the old axe off, maybe we could give this thing a real shot. Let's get the old band back together again. Let's get back in the room and let the magic happen. Let's get the old band back together.
This song plays so often in my house. Like it's a feel good, funny song to me.
It's like I feel like it's the perfect like end of the encore song, like, you know, and it's slow on the album, but I feel like live when everyone's singing along, it's a very like drunk, swaying, happy song.
Yeah,
the verses are funny, man. The verses are funny.
Yeah, I mean he's writing it from the perspective of that guy, right? So he's that building inspector or whatever he was. He's writing it from the perspective of like looking back at these guys who have never left their past life, and are kind of holding on to it. And it's like, okay, let me come back and let's give it one last shot.
Yeah,
which just cracks me up.
Maybe we can give this thing a real shot, is what he says.
Yeah, and let's get back in the room and let the magic happen. Let's get the old band back together again. It's really well done. Let's keep going.
Shots fired at Anna coming up.
After the baby, everything changed. I only have a couple a night these days, and I'm glad that I came. I like the new name, but with Anna on bass, it really doesn't feel the same. Let's get the old band back together again. Let's get back in the room and let the magic happen. Let's get the old band back together.
So what's kind of funny is, like, picture this playing out, right? The first verse is about how stoked he was to get back in the room with the band, and then he shows up at this band practice, and it's just like a letdown.
Well, you know, like, I'm glad that I came. I like the new name, but with Anna on bass, it doesn't feel the same. It's just pinning it all on Anna, who is the name of the bassist on the very song. Anna Butters is the bassist that plays with Better Oblivion, Community Center, and Boy Genius, and Phoebe Bridgers and all that. So I think he just used her real name just as like a shits and giggles.
Yeah.
She is the bassist. But it's like this guy coming back. Like, all right, this is cool. I like it. I don't like her, but like I like the new name. We're gonna just like giving all its critiques right away.
He's been gone for so long. Yeah. I did read that what he said about the Anna on bass line doesn't really feel the same. He had to sit in for her. I don't remember on what show or what tour. Either she was sick or something came up where she couldn't play, so he sat in on bass for either Phoebe Bridgers or Better Oblivion Community Center show, and it definitely didn't feel the same, and he knew it and felt guilty about it for a while. And there's a fun little article with him in it. I can't remember who did it, but so he's like, that's why I put that line in there, because it was easy to see like, okay, the bassist could really fuck this up.
Yeah.
I've been kicking around, it's really bumming me out, but suddenly no one wants to play it fucking loud. Let's get the old band.
So he's gonna keep doing the chorus, and then the end of the song is like a big party. There's Phoebe Bridgers on this track. There's Connor Oberst. There's him. There's other members of, I had it open before, Lucy Dacus and Meg Duffy are all there, like playing harmonicas and singing and like doing all that. So it's like a kind of a party recording. But what's kind of funny if you think about nobody wants to play it fucking loud, then suddenly no one wants to play it fucking loud. It's like a reflection of kind of like he wants to get back into this hard rock band that he was in high school, as opposed to what they're playing now, which is probably something quite different. So it's like, shows up, songs don't sound the same, and they're not playing it the way that we used to. We don't play loud rock music anymore, and it doesn't say how it finishes, like if there's like he walks away again in the end, but the sentiment's pretty funny to me.
Yeah, that's a great song. It's just a fun song that like I bet that crew played it to end shows and just loved it when they were like touring together.
Yeah.
It seems like an all hands on deck song.
Right. All right, the last one that we're going to do before we sign off is Keep You Down.
Ooh. This is a brutally honest song. So if you follow the path of the album, a lot of it deals with the breakup, and a lot of it's like how they knew they were going to break up and it just didn't work out and things like that, and some other things. And then there's this song, which is a very, very honest song about a breakup. It's kind of about gaslighting your girlfriend.
Yeah. It's definitely laid out, like there's 10 tracks on this album. It's definitely laid out in the order of kind of like a roller coaster of a relationship, basically. Mm-hmm. Not every song is about that, but you could see when it comes in and out of that story. So here it is, and we'll stop along the way.
I could have told you they loved you from the way they stood still. But I hope you didn't notice, and that you never will, 'cause it isn't hard to imagine that you won't need me someday. But I know something that you don't. You never did anyway.
Should we pause it before he goes into this chorus real quick to kind of set the scene?
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad, man. Like, he's kind of just... It feels like he has to tell the girl you're not loved by anyone else, and you probably won't find love by anyone else, because that's how he thinks he's going to keep her with him and make sure that he stays the main goal in her eyes, in a way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's a keep you down is a, you'll see in the chorus, but it's like it's the ways that he talks through trying to keep someone desperate to stay, the other person, keep them desperate to stay in the relationship. Through words.
He says at the end there, he says it like, it isn't hard to imagine that you won't need me someday, but I know something you don't. You never did anyway. Like, you're too good for me. But instead of like pumping her up and be like, you're too good for me, you can find better, he's like just saying the complete opposite. You'll never find better. No one else likes you. And he knows it's a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. Sad. All right. And he really ties it together here with the chorus.
Our love's already begun to brown, and unless I can convince you, no one could want you now. You're gonna see how easy it is to fool around, so I have to keep you down.
By the way, that's Sharon Silva on the harmony with him. Nice. So really, really well sung chorus, and it comes up again, obviously. I mean, he's kind of acknowledging it in the chorus. So I don't know if in this story he's supposed to be saying it to her, or this is just like his reflection in his own head. But it's like his not apology, his confession, right? Like, you're gonna see how easy it is to fool around, so I have to keep you down.
Yeah. He's basically saying, I don't want you to realize there's better shit in the world, so I'm just gonna be a dick.
Right. Right, exactly.
Yeah. It's a very honest and brutal song.
It is. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if this has happened to him or what, or if he's just writing songs for things that happen to people, but it's I'm sure it happens out there.
At one point you decided that you were burning through self-esteem, locked up whatever you had left, and trusted me with the key.
That part's sad because it's like he's admitting, like, I hold the keys to your emotions, so it's in the better interest for me to fuck with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a form of emotional abuse, basically.
Yeah, gaslighting her, basically. Which happens in a lot of relationships, I think. People get scared that they're going to get left, so they try to manipulate.
Right.
Begun to brown, and unless I can convince you, no one could want you now. You're gonna see how easy it is to fool around, so I have to keep you down.
How good is that harmony? I do love that.
It's pretty crazy.
And I love that it's a female voice with him to kind of like reflect the other part of the relationship potentially.
Is he louder than her, keeping her down?
I don't know. I have to go listen to that. That's really deep if he did that, man.
Could be.
So we just kind of talked about it. He does the chorus again. One thing we didn't touch on is how he says, unless I can convince you, no one could want you now. Like basically,
that's his last hope.
This is his last hope. This is his effort to go do so. I think the best part of the song is right here in the bridge, I guess is what it's called, before the final chorus.
Your oversight's gonna cost you. Maybe eventually. See, I've been betting against you unintentionally. Our love's already begun to brown, and unless I can convince you, no one could want you now. You're gonna see how easy it is to fool around, so I have to keep you down. I have to keep you down.
That's really well done. But I love that line, your oversight's going to cost you. Like, you didn't pick up on these signs.
Yeah. You're failing. You should see I'm an asshole. You should
Right.
see what I'm doing to you. You can't figure it out. It's Bean. Dude, a lot of the songs on the album are, different aspects of a breakup, which is cool. Like, we didn't listen to it, but Lose This Number is about thinking about an ex and calling her, and the whole time she's like, lose this number, I don't want to talk to you, but he's trying to like, oh, I was just thinking about you, I was just wondering, you remember that night when we were sleeping under, and the chorus is just the girl saying, lose this number, please stop calling me. So there's a lot of different ones. That one opens up with a good joke that made me laugh out loud when I would listen to it. Have you heard that one?
No,
do you know what
I'm
I'm talking
looking.
about?
I don't know what it is.
He says, Bobby helped me track you down because I saw your name in the paper.
Oh.
You said, of course that reminded you of me. Don't you know that's how a name works? It just cracked me up. Like, imagine calling someone like, hey, I saw your name in the paper and it made me think of you. It's like, no, that's not, like, you didn't make you. Of course you thought of me. It's my name. It's not like you saw a brown car and I used to drive a brown car. It's like any excuse to call a girl and her just shutting you down right away.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. It made me laugh out loud when I first listened to it.
Yeah, he's got this way of writing humor into these songs, which is very, like, it's a pretty,
sneaky.
It's a sneaky way to do it, but it's also just a sign of a really mature songwriter, and he's
so it's crazy. This is his debut album.
So it's awesome. All right, well, that is our little tour through a couple songs from the Christian Lee Hutson Beginners album. Jim, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good to have you on as always. This was an episode of Talkin Folk. If you like what you're doing, what we're doing even, please subscribe, rate us, tell your friends, tell your family. If you don't like what we're doing, just forget this ever happened.
Just give the person in the car next to you a thumbs up and they'll know what it means.
Yeah.
Easy as that. It's really simple.
Yeah. All right, man. I'll catch you later.
All right. See ya.
With you